This is Lisa Robinson, and this edition of the Inside Track features an exclusive look at the phenomenon of Van Halen. After 5 platinum albums in a row, Van Halen released their new album, 1984, this year, and announced their 1984 U.S. tour, which immediately sold out in arenas all over the country. Van Halen is 4 people: lead singer David Lee Roth, guitarist Eddie Van Halen, drummer Alex Van Halen, and bass player Michael Anthony. But it is the combination of the sheer showbiz charisma of the rock star sex symbol David Lee Roth and the musical genius of the guitar virtuoso Eddie Van Halen that I feel makes Van Halen special. Eddie Van Halen, who is totally committed to his music, is shy and rarely does interviews. Although he's been voted best guitarist 5 times in a row by Guitar Player magazine, and he is married to well-known TV actress Valerie Bertinelli, Edward likes to stay out of the limelight. So it is a special pleasure for us to be able to present this exclusive radio interview with Eddie Van Halen. I started our conversation by asking Eddie why he began to play the guitar.
I started playing because I was just your typical insecure person. Being jerked around by, girlfriends or people at school, this and that. I felt... That sounds stupid. I felt lonely. I was just your basic loner. So I started playing guitar. I just kind of fell into it. I didn't know what else to do except play guitar. I got so into guitar that I would sit there hours on end, not go out, not go to parties, not do anything except lock myself in my room and play guitar. Ask Alex. He knows. He would go out with his old lady and come back at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'd still be up playing. I probably wrote more songs within that 2-3 year period of time than I ever will. And it was because I was depressed.
So was this like your friend, the guitar?
It was a piece of wood that was part of me that I slapped together myself. And I just looked at it and I said, this piece of wood could never hurt me unless I fell on it. Playing guitar always helped me through emotional, bummed out times because I had something. Instead of turning on TV or doing drugs, I felt like I had something. It wasn't like, oh, I'm bummed out, I better play my guitar. It's like, I can say that now because that's what I did if I did get depressed. I don't want to sound like a geek, but guitar really means a lot more to me than an instrument. It's part of me, period.
While Eddie is considered the most unassuming member of Van Halen, on stage he still puts on a show, particularly when he slides across the stage on his knees.
What I'm doing on stage is me. That's the only thing I can do. Seriously. I put everything I got into what I do on record or live, and I'm glad people like it, but it's just very funny, even though I'm in my late 20s.
How late?
It's 10 to 2. I still feel like I'm a jerk kid, like when I was in high school. When chicks didn't want to go out with me because I didn't have a car or this and that.
All right, now stop.
I still feel the same way.
You have been named Best Rock Guitarist by, Guitar Player magazine now for 5 years in a row. You are married to, one of America's sweethearts, okay? You get kids screaming in concerts. What's it going to take to make you feel like that people really do appreciate you and you've got something going for you? I mean, it seems a little bit over-modest.
Okay, I don't feel like I'm over-modest, but I guess maybe I am. Everyone always tells me, hey, get out of your wimpy attitude about yourself and this and that. But I started playing guitar to, have something on my own that I like to do, and people look at me and go, hey, he's good at something. I never bargained for all of this. I don't think I'm any different than anyone who comes to see us play. It really isn't an inferiority thing. It's just a way I feel. Playing guitar is part of me. If Van Halen never goes, and people don't like us anymore, I'm not going to go get a day job, or I'm going to continue playing guitar. That's what I love to do.
You don't feel like a rock star.
What is a rock star?
A rock star is somebody who...
It sounds funny. A rock star. Sounds like one of the Flintstones. It does. Hi, I'm from Bedrock. I'm a Joe rock star.
You know exactly what I mean. You know what a rock star is. A rock star is somebody...
a rock star?
On stage, you sure as hell do.
When I think rock star, I think of a person posing, wearing skin-tight satin pants or spandex. I'm not like that. I wear the clothes I do on stage because they'll beat me up if I don't. Because I might just go out there the way I look right now.
Yeah, I think you should.
Because I love to play.
Yeah. When you started out, what did you envision for Van Halen? I mean, when you were playing for $100 a week, what were your dreams?
Okay, what I dreamt was that we would be famous, but not famous in the way the word means. Not that I could walk down the street and everyone would go, "Hey, that's him." Not like that, but famous in a way that people like the music we make. I would love to be the Invisible Man and just play.
Why don't you stand behind a curtain then?
Because they won't let me. My brother used to throw drumsticks at me. Move, jump around. I mean, I don't jump up and down and slide on my knees in the studio. I play. That's all I ever bargained for.
Do you like playing more when you're on stage and you're sliding on your knees and you're jumping up and down? I mean, does it give you an extra added kick?
No. When Alex threw drumsticks at me, and not really beat me up, but everyone used to yell at me, move, do this, do that. I was afraid to do or move the way I felt like moving. And what I'm doing now, no matter how ridiculous or whatever I look, sometimes I see pictures of myself and I'm going, but what the hell? That's me. Whereas back then, I would try and move the way I was supposed to. Hi, I'm a rock star. I'm a lead guitarist. I better look like every other lead guitarist, otherwise I won't be accepted. What I'm saying is that the way I move is me.
This is Lisa Robinson, and we're back on the inside track with Eddie Van Halen. I asked Eddie if he really was as modest as he seemed.
I know some people who love that spotlight, that being in the middle and causing the hysteria, whatever. Alex pointed this out to me. He said, next time you do a guitar solo, look. And he said, you can slide on your knees or kick your amps or do whatever you want, but the people cheer loudest when you stand still and play. And that makes me very happy that they appreciate what I do on the guitar, not on my knees.
At what point did you know that Van Halen was going to be something special?
I always thought Van Halen was going to be something special. To me, Van Halen was special when we played backyard parties. Because it was me.
What were you like then?
The same jerk I am now.
What'd you play? What'd you look like?
I play guitar.
I know you play guitar.
Oh. I didn't look too much different, actually. But to me, Van Halen was always something, something special to me because it was the main part of my life.
You said that the guitar is your first love. Is that still true?
There are different kinds of love. I mean, I wouldn't trade my wife in for another guitar. It's just part of me, period. Actually, it kept me from growing up. Really. Like my father. Two things he always says is, you only live once, and there's nothing better than a good life.
He's like a real major role model to you. I mean, you never had any other heroes that you looked up to, no movie stars, no musicians, nothing. It was him.
I'll tell you, Alex and I and my mom and dad, we're a very close family. And I almost play to please them, to give their seal of approval and go, yeah, I like that. That means more to me than 20,000 people in an arena cheering.
Everyone who knows Eddie knows how close he is to his brother Alex. Eddie told me about some of the scrapes they got into as teenagers before they started Van Halen.
My mother and father used to tell Alex and I, get a job, have something to fall back on. Here I am, 21 years old, going, oh, God, Al, what are we going to do? So Al has this bright idea, and he goes, here, put this blue overall on. And we went down to San Marino, which is a real rich section, South Pasadena area. And Alex would go knock on the doors and say, hi, I'm from San Marino Department of whatever. And I'd be sitting out in the gutter taping up the house number to paint the number on the house. And Al would charge him $3. And that's how we made money.
Wait a minute, you just like con them into thinking that you had to paint the number?
Yeah.
Well, what if they already had a number on their house?
We'd say, well, it's mandatory. Once a year, it has to be done. Al was a very good talker.
You got away with it, really?
Until one day, after we did this for about a month and a half, every day, a cop happens to pull up. And he goes, hey, what are you doing? I'm going, Al! So he just said, he kicked us out of the city.
Was it very much like you were the younger brother sort of getting into these scrapes that Alex was devising?
I depend on Alex.
Yeah.
I really do. Sounds hokey, but I love him so much. Even if he wasn't my brother, he would be my best friend. That's why we can fight without hurting each other, still get things out. I used to love Dave Clark 5, so I bought myself a drum set. And I'd be out throwing the papers, as a paper boy, to make money to pay for the $125 drum set, and Alex would be home practicing Wipeout. And he got better than me, and he was taking flamenco guitar lessons at the time, and I picked up his guitar.
This is Lisa Robinson, and we're back with Eddie Van Halen on the Inside Track.
You don't know what it is that makes Van Halen good?
No, because when Dave, Al, Mike, and I get along great, it's no different than when we can't stand each other.
Are there really times when you can't stand each other?
Sure. Come on, you're married. Aren't there times when you don't feel like putting up with your husband? I mean, Valerie will admit to putting a hammer to my head sometimes.
A hammer to your head?
Oh, okay, not a hammer. Maybe a door to my face. Whenever you know or spend a lot of time with one person, it's inevitable that you fight. Period. Alex and I were brothers. Without him, I don't know how I would handle all of this. And we fight more than anyone I've ever known. But we also get along better than anyone I know. That helps me getting along with anyone else around me, just like getting along with Valerie. We fight so much that we get everything out. The majority of the ideas I come up with, I write on piano and then apply to guitar. And nobody believes me, just like no one believes me that Eric Clapton is the only guitarist that I ever copped licks from. What I used to do is I'd sit down with a turntable and listen to the live Cream stuff and take the turntable and put it on 16, not 33 RPM, but 16, which is real slow. And I take the balance and put it to the left or the right, whichever side the guitar was on, and crank it up and play along. And it sounded like, real, it's like almost an octave lower when you turn the speed down to 16. But I learned everything, like note for note.
It seems to me, however, that, I mean, as far as stuff like people think, when they think in terms of guitarists, and they think of 60s guitarists, you may not have listened to them, with the exception of Clapton. But what you're doing is you're taking the same instrument that they used, and it's like you're moving it into another dimension. I mean, it's like you've created this whole other kind of language. You do stuff that I never heard before, and that doesn't mean that you're better or that you're...
Yeah. Oh, I don't at all feel that I'm better. If I kick the bucket tomorrow, the only thing I want people to at least think of me as, or respect me or whatever, is that I have done things on guitar that no one else has done.
It's tinsel, it's glamour town, it's Hollywood, you know, the lines, anti-mame, Ballet is calling, boom, you know, deliver the lick, man, the ace riff, and the ones who've heard it before turn to the people on their left and say, dig this, dig this, dig this. If there's ever been anybody who doesn't underestimate our audience, I got to say it's the Dime.
Who?
Diamond Dave, man. I'm going to tell you, because everybody cuts it down. They say, all these kids, all these teenagers, all these people got double-digit numbers, and it all starts with 1, 14, 12, 13, something like that. And I say, don't flatter yourself, baby, because people ain't no smarter. You get inside the building, and you make a show, and man, everybody becomes highest common denominator. And when you're dealing in large numbers of people, words that go poof work better than words that go if you want to make sense, you use the kind of words that go poof so that it translates to 20,000 people. You can touch the person in the 93rd row. You can touch them with your words, almost physically. You can touch them. And you have to know how to do that, whether it's exaggeration or using certain kinds of words. And words that go, they work, man. 93rd row, here's it. Words that go, work better than words that go. If you want to make sense, you use the kind of words that go, so that it translates to 20,000 people. You can touch the person in the 93rd row. You can touch them with your words, almost physically. You can touch them. And you have to know how to do that, whether it's exaggeration or using certain kinds of words. And words that go, they work, man. 93rd row, hears it, smells it, tastes the word. If you use words that go, they get about to the 14th row and peter out, and people say, what did he say? I didn't hear that. Ray, let's go get a hot dog.
Dave has the reputation of being a real party boy, but those of us who know him well know that he has another, more serious side. Even though he's always surrounded by people on the road, I asked him if he ever gets lonely.
Oh, I get lonely a lot of times because people who perceive of what's happening with the band only perceive that. And that's their 5 minutes, and that's exists, but it is not the total. And if you look at the total, yeah, you know, you want to fall in love. Of course you want to fall in love. Where do little rock stars come from? It's like, okay, you do like that, and you want to talk with somebody, but it's very difficult because people don't understand what kind of life you're truly leading out here. And me in particular, I got a heart. You gotta have heart, miles and miles and miles of heart. Come on, $5. What play was that?
Oh, damn Yankees.
Very good, Lisa. I'm very open. I'm a very social kind of guy, you know? I like to talk to people. And believe it or not, my ears are bigger than my mouth. It's just my haircut. Like, people feel intimidated. So I reassure a lot of times, and I always hear, oh, wow, man, you're not like I thought you would be, man. Yeah. Don't bother so much, because I got used to it long time ago.
But don't you think that a lot of that stuff that you do serves to put distance between you and people? All that yada yada? I mean, all of that, all the lines, all the flip, all the talking.
We do spin magic. We do make magic tricks. We do make sleight of hand. We do make showbiz. And I love showbiz. Oh, Lord, how I love show business.
You didn't answer my question, though.
I'm answering your question. You do a lot of things, but what's your first love? What are you living for? I don't figure history's going to record my accomplishments, but what'll be on the stone will say is a spirit. You go for the spirit, boom, and then Rachel Ward will fall in love with me.
This is Lisa Robinson. We're back on the Inside Track with David Lee Roth.
Was it your idea to call it Van Halen?
Yes.
Why?
Well, couldn't easily call it Roth. It was my idea.
Why couldn't you have called it Roth?
Because it doesn't sound romantic enough. Van Halen, to my ear, in a poetic sense, sounds like something that could be a euphemism, argot, for the wind. The Van Halen winds, like the Santana winds. Or it could be a piano player, a classical piano player, Van Halen, tonight at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, one night only. You know, like that. Or it could be anything, you know, the Flying Dutchman, the pirate ship that supposedly sunk, came back as a ghost ship and, you know, plunders all ships at sea. The Flying Dutchman, the captain, was named Van Halen. It could be anything. It could sum up anything. And therefore, you could grow within it.
One of the highlights of Van Halen's show is David Lee Roth's astounding stage presence. He shows off his prowess in the martial arts and does splits and other gymnastics that seem impossible.
I love to fly, but the discipline that it takes for me to get myself loose so I don't hurt myself when I land, because going up is nothing. Coming down is the whole ball of wax. The things I go through as far as warming up, stretching, watching what you eat, etc., to where you can get maximum altitude and really feel like you're soaring, is such a pain in my behind. I wish I could just take a slug off the bottle and swing into it and get 5 feet off the ground, you know, and smile and wink. But you can't do it. It doesn't work that way. As usual, the answer lies somewhere in between. My thrill for throwing myself into the air and doing something while I'm up there, balanced with how much I hate the homework. But if you spin hard enough and fast enough in that kind of heat and that kind of noise, then you achieve a whole nother consciousness. Now, I don't know if I'm losing brain cells or what, but it's a whole nother world. It's a whole nother feeling. It's difficult to explain, but I guess, you know, somebody someday will write it up as therapy, and in Beverly Hills, people will do it. You know, for 2 hours, they'll scream at the top of their lungs, and they'll run in place to wild, violent music with all kinds of their friends cheering them on and piped in applause and everything until they fall out on the floor like I do backstage after the show.
Dave has always emphasized that he lives the rock and roll lifestyle. He is no different, he says, off stage than he is on.
Rock and roll is everything. Rock and roll is your lifestyle. Rock and roll is the way you talk. Rock and roll is the way you live and breathe. What time did you go to bed? Did you go to bed? What did you eat for breakfast? Did you eat breakfast? How fast did you drive? How do you treat your boyfriend? How do you treat your girlfriend? How do you dress? How don't you dress? And on and on and on and on and on. And that's got to come from the heart. It's got to be real for me. And I think that as long as we maintain that with Van Halen and we live by that credo, then that will translate onto the records and into the live shows, and I'll always have a job. You play what you can play. You go for what you know? And that is true rock and roll.
David Lee Roth has worked obsessively for 10 years to make Van Halen happen. Now that they've made it, I asked him what challenges him next.
I want the world. I want the world now. That's a big demand, but I'm willing to work for it.
What does the world mean? What does that mean, you want the world?
I want to go to the farthest out islands, and I want to see somebody with a smile on their face dancing to our music, coming over some pedestrian tropical disco somewhere without him even knowing who the hell I am. You know, I want to see that. I want to see him walk off with a girl so they can go cohabitate, because my song was their song.
This is Lisa Robinson. I'd like to thank my guests Eddie Van Halen and David Lee Roth for these exclusive interviews on the Inside Track. Please join us next month when my guests will be Mike Peters from The Alarm, Stuart Adamson from Big Country, and Chrissie Hynde of The Pretenders.